Greetings everyone, my name is Dominic and today you're tuning in to the Comic Book Report, where we review comic books and graphic novels so you can get an idea of what to read. And today I've got another list video for all of you. Today we're going to be looking at 10 must-see comic book artists. There are so many gifted creators in this medium, and here's 10 of some of my favorite comic book pencilers. Before we jump into the list though, I do want to just shout out our channel sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com. If you're looking for comic book collected editions, you should definitely check them out. You can find a link to their website in my video description. If you find something you like, you can even use my discount code, TheComicBookReport, at checkout to receive $2 off of your order. Please note, if you use my affiliate link or code to make a purchase, I will earn a small commission, but it's a fantastic way to support this channel. Thank you so much for considering. Now let's get started with today's list video. In no particular order, the first on our list today is going to be Dan Mora. He's an incredible comic book penciler, and today to showcase some of his talent, I have Once and Future Volume 1. This is a really fun book by Kieran Gillen and of course Dan Mora. It's a kind of heady, literary fantasy adventure, I guess I'll call it. There's a lot of great monsters, great characters from literature, mythological or ancient literature, kind of medieval literature. It's a really, really fun book. It is from an indie publisher, in this case Boom Studios. But anyway, it's a self-contained little series. I think there's 6 of these trade paperback volumes. I've read maybe the first half so far, but easily one of the most gripping facets of this series for me is the incredible artwork from Dan Mora. Now, this artist has done several more works. I know he's on World's Finest at the time of this recording, and that's getting rave reviews as well. But this was my real first introduction to this artist, and I love the style. I think the character models are all very detailed. They have kind of an animated quality, and yet the face shapes and everything have a lot of character and realism to them as well. One of my favorite things about this penciler as well is the way they do kind of monstrous figures. There's a lot of really great kind of skeletal creatures in Once and Future. There's some monsters, there's some kind of otherworldly realms and magic, things like that. And to see how Dan Mora captures this world, well, frankly, it plays into some of my favorite parts about fantasy, which is the world building. And so much of that in the comic book medium is the kind of visual storytelling, and having Dan Mora here, it's just such an immersive environment. I also think the colorist did a fantastic job on this. I really like whenever we get like a striking, cooler color palette, your kind of greens and blues and purples and even kind of soft pinks. It's a really fun palette. Anyway, this is a penciler that I will be following from time to time just because I loved their work so much on Once and Future. He really does a fantastic job, and I think that this is one I would safely recommend to many readers out there. If you're looking for a more art-heavy book that still has a lot in that writing as well, Once and Future is a great choice, but definitely don't miss out on Dan Mora's pencils. Next up, we have the incredible work of Alex Maleev, as he penciled my favorite run on Daredevil, which is, of course, the Brian Michael Bendis run. Bendis and Maleev really delivered a tour de force product here with The Man Without Fear. I think that what I like about Maleev's style is it's kind of sketchy, scratchy, gritty, and dark. I really love whenever he tackles more of a crime-based narrative, which we definitely have here in Daredevil. There's a style to his artwork that doesn't feel as maybe realistic. It is a little bit messier, darker, dirtier, but it just has such a lived-in quality to it. I don't know how to even describe it, but the tone just seeps through the pencils. And I think, yes, the writing is wonderful, that kind of gritty crime, superhero genre, but having the pencils makes this whole work just flourish. I think that this sets such a good sense of tone, a sense of place, and really more than any of that, just that feeling. The feeling you get seeing this artwork is really hard to describe for me, but it puts me right in the grimy, gritty city streets. And I think that to paint the Daredevil kind of narrative across it, it all just fits so well. I think Maleev has a really unique style to him as well. I frankly have never seen this replicated with another penciler. I can look at his pencils for hours. I know it's not the cleanest, crispest, most polished work we have in a lot of kind of mainstream books you'll find from Big 2 on the shelves today, but I think that that's part of what I love. I love that it's gritty. I love that it's a bit messy when you look at the line work and the style to it. And I just love that feeling. It just has a griminess to it that puts me right in those New York City streets. This is an incredible run, an incredible book, and an incredible artist attached to it. Alex Maleev should not be missed. And hey, while you're watching, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to leave a like, and also subscribe to the channel. I do list videos like this periodically, as well as comic book reviews, unboxings, and more. Thank you for considering. Now on with the show. Next on our list here, Esad Ribic. This penciler is just phenomenal. There's such like a pastel, dreamy-like quality to his artwork. To showcase it here, I have Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars that he does the art for. Really just an outstanding artist here. That dreamlike pastel, kind of softer quality to the artwork, it really lends itself to this kind of imaginative, epic, kind of dreamy fantasy adventure kind of feel. Anyway, to have it as part of Jonathan Hickman's culmination of his epic across Marvel, after Fantastic Four and Avengers, to have everything capped with Secret Wars, and you have just this grand storytelling where he makes a new battle world, and it feels very fantastical and fantasy fiction based. I think Ribic was the perfect artist to do it. I've seen Ribic do a lot of other covers. I believe he also does part of a Thor run. I think I might have seen him on an Eternals run. But at any rate, a very stunning penciler. I think one of the reasons I wanted to put him on the list as well is that I think this style is just really unique. While I don't always love seeing this particular style, it should definitely be commended. I think for me, it really shows how you can push the boundaries of this medium. This does not look like so much of what you see on the stands today, and I love it for that. I love that it has this dreamy quality. I think it really fits well with the science fiction or fantasy genre, as I've kind of mentioned. And so far, I've seen him paired with works that explore that in the storytelling. And I think that that's just really well put together. I think, like I said, it really sold the feel I got for Secret Wars, that we're on this fantastical world and we have all these kind of otherworldly events and things happening, and I think Ribic just really nailed it with the character models and, like I said, that sense of dreaminess to the storytelling. Really gripping stuff here. I think that this is an artist, if you like fantasy literature, you should definitely check them out. I think it just captures something that has that dreamlike quality. Very cool, and a great book, I might add. Next on our list, I can't do a video like this and not talk about my favorite penciler, Jim Lee. Of course, I'm going to showcase his talents here in my favorite work from him, which is Batman Hush by Jeph Loeb, and of course the great Jim Lee. For me, when I think of Batman Hush, I think of Jim Lee at the height of his powers. To me, this is the best his pencils have ever looked. Before and after are still great, of course, but to me, it's just in a whole nother gear with Batman Hush. I would love to get an even more prestige edition of this someday, but for right now, I do love my little paperback here. For those that haven't read this story, it's a great story that goes through a lot of Batman's greatest rogues gallery characters, and we have Jim Lee's incredible pencils, which I always love seeing. I think for me, their character models are all very distinctive, and they have kind of a more realistic approach to them. Everything looks really clean, vibrant, polished. Everything just jumps off the page. I absolutely love the way he does Batman. I love the way he does Catwoman, and to see them throughout this story was just a real dream. Of course, I love some of Jim Lee's work I've read in X-Men, and some of the New 52 stuff, and so much more. Anyway, the style is just beautiful. You can see as I flip through the pages here, it's absolutely incredible. I am really biased. Like I said, he is my favorite comic book penciler, and for whatever reason, the art we have here is just wonderful. I love a good Batman story, and for me, this just so immersed me in the world of Gotham and all of these great characters. I just love Batman Hush in general. I know that's kind of a polarizing topic for some. Some people think it's overrated. Respect that opinion, but I just love it, and I think the art just jumps from the page. I think if you're a comic book lover and you enjoy particularly the art in comic books and you've never read Batman Hush, it's worth it for the art alone, and the story itself is just a lot of fun as well. I know they're coming out with a Batman kind of Hush saga omnibus that I'm sure includes this story in it. But at any rate, this is Jim Lee, a good example of his great talent. Had to include it on the list. Next on our list today, Fantastic Four Full Circle by Alex Ross. The artist here we're going to be talking about is, of course, Alex Ross, and while he's done incredible work throughout his history, I wanted to include Fantastic Four Full Circle because he does double duty as both writer and illustrator, and honestly, I think it's a ton of fun. I will note his more traditional style is slightly different than what we see in Full Circle, but I still wanted to showcase it because, like I said, he does double duty, and I think it's fantastic. I would say that the art we have here from Alex Ross is still Alex Ross, but it's also channeling Jack Kirby, if that makes any sense. I think for longtime comic book fans, you can see what I'm suggesting here. But essentially, Alex Ross's style, if you've never seen it, is it's full-on paintings. It's a full-on painted work. He's a very traditional artist as far as that goes, like traditional hand-painted kind of stuff. And the fact that he works in the comic book medium, well, we're all really blessed for that, I think. I love seeing his work. I know he's done a lot of just incredible cover artwork as well. He's done interior artwork. If you've ever read like DC's Kingdom Come, for example, that's a good example, or Marvel's. Those are some of the other really big name books from him for the big two that I could definitely safely recommend if you want to see more Alex Ross artwork. But for me, I loved Fantastic Four Full Circle. I of course love the artwork from Jack Kirby, and to see him kind of pay homage to that with his own style was just really fun. I love this big prestige artwork kind of format where we have the kind of more square book shape. I think it was really great. I am a big Fantastic Four fan, so also this work in general was just a lot of fun. If you've never read Full Circle, it's kind of a sequel or kind of follow-up to an issue that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby wrote all the way back in, I think, the late 50s, early 60s. Anywho, it's a really great book. I think this is still in publication. I definitely recommend checking it out. It is shorter, but we just have some incredible artwork, some incredible two-page spreads, and really it just showcases that incredible painted realistic look of the great Alex Ross. Okay, next up we have Harleen by Stjepan Sejic, and that is the artist we're going to be talking about today. Like the previous entry in this video, Fantastic Four Full Circle, this artist does double duty, both writer and illustrator of this work. Harleen, for those that haven't read it or maybe haven't seen my video for it, this is an incredible standalone work that is one part Harley Quinn origin story and another part just a great deep psychological character study. Anyway, going back to the artwork itself from Sejic, I really just think he's a once-in-a-generation talent as far as what we get here. Another great set of character models. There is kind of a realistic approach. I know I've said that a lot in this video. Maybe I'm a fan of that style, who could say. But this is another great prestige kind of art-based book. It's that nice square kind of book, an oversized format. So we really just get a great look at all the artwork. I think that this is something I would comfortably recommend to any Batman or DC comic book fan out there. But in general, if you like good art, definitely check this out. The writing is top notch, but the art just kicks it over. The storytelling is so immersive and interesting, and really a fiction that focuses on such like an internal psychological thriller component. I think a lot of the artwork we have just in the modern day real events are transpiring, but also kind of what's in her head, how she imagines her nightmares, things like that. The way it's all illustrated in this book, honestly, this book just left a really lasting impression on me. I think for me, this artwork speaks for itself. I think almost anyone can enjoy it. You take a look at it and you immediately can tell what makes it set apart. I just think it's beautiful. I think it's absolutely stunning, and it's absolutely a work that has to be talked about when I'm talking about great comic book pencilers. Don't miss out on Stjepan Sejic, and if you haven't read Harleen yet, to me, this is kind of actually taken the place of Mad Love in my mind for the definitive Harley Quinn origin story. I think it's that good. It's one of my favorite DC Black Label titles, and yeah, just good stuff. Okay, next on our list, I wanted to be sure in a video like this I didn't just favor modern pencilers. Even though I am a big fan of modern comic book art, I think there's something to be said about the Silver Age and some of the earlier eras in comic book history, and to that end I had to include one of my favorite classic comic book artists. Of course, I'm talking about Gene Colan. Gene the Dean Colan. This guy did incredible work. To showcase some of his artwork today, I'm going to be looking at the Invincible Iron Man Omnibus Volume 1 from Marvel Comics. He didn't do the art for all of it, but he did definitely cover some of the latter half of this book, and I just want to do a little bit of a sampling of some of his stuff here. I don't know how to describe it, but in a world of really classic comic book art, this man just really understood scene and point of view and perspective. I just think that his artwork is so incredibly lush and stylized and interesting. I think that it absolutely feels cinematic in scope in this classic era. I know he's also done some really great work on Daredevil, Batman, and so many other titles, but for me, I just wanted to go ahead and showcase his work here in Iron Man, not even because it's necessarily his best work, but because this is a book I got recently. I saw his name attached, and I thought, you know what, I need to talk about Gene Colan a little bit more on this channel. I think, like I said, the artwork feels cinematic to me. I think just the perspective he takes when he creates these different panels, I think it really sets him apart leaps and bounds from some of the other comic book artists of the time. And I think I'm talking about classic comic book artists here, he's among my maybe top 5 for classic comic book artists. I did want to just talk about it again. I think modern comics definitely take a lot of my time here on the channel, but I always love going back to the Silver Age. I always love going back to some of these more classic stories. And if I'm going to go back there, especially in a video like this, I had to talk about Gene Colan. I just think the artwork's great. You can see it for yourself. Whether or not it's your style, I do think, like I said, it just is ahead of its time as far as the perspective and how he kind of frames everything. Really, really well done. Love this artist. Next, and in this case it's another classic comic book artist, of course I'm talking about the king, Jack Kirby. This is probably the most prolific comic book artist from the Silver Age of comics, and to showcase his incredible talent, I'm taking a look at Fantastic Four Omnibus Volume 3. Now, he's in all the first 4 volumes of the Fantastic Four as the artist, so you might be wondering, why did you choose Volume 3, Dom? There's a really good reason for that. I think for me, the back half of his run on Fantastic Four with Stan Lee, it's really where we see him step up in his style for his artwork, in my mind. I think we also get him with an incredible inker, and for whatever reason, I just think the art just goes all the way up a couple notches. I really, really love the style we have from Jack Kirby. His character models are known for being a bit more boxy and blocky, I guess I would say, but there's so much character and passion and life in these characters. I think they are so absolutely expressive, and I think that his art is automatically just known. Like when you see it, you know if it's a Jack Kirby. Like I said, how he approaches the character models and just even the style he does certain things, I really, really love it. I love how he does the Thing. I love seeing all the different line work and stuff. Really, really a great title. Love seeing the Human Torch and all the fire effects. When I think of comic book artists, Jack Kirby is an absolute cornerstone. I could not in good conscience do a video like this and not include Jack the King Kirby. I think that he is absolutely essential in the foundation of Marvel Comics and really in comic book history in general. I know he's done a lot of incredible work on so many different titles, but for me, I love his Fantastic Four stuff, especially this latter era. I just think it's really great. I also think of all the Fantastic Four volumes, I feel like I talk about this one the least. Admittedly, I haven't made my way through it completely, but from what I flipped through, it still looks like another great entry. And like I said, I think we're definitely seeing some development in Jack Kirby's art, both his proficiency and his style here, and just absolutely had to talk about it. A perfect Silver Age artist, and definitely a great comic book illustrator. Okay, next up, to round out the last 2 entries on this video, I'm going to, of course, be talking about the late, great Tim Sale. Now, this is the Batman by Jeph Loeb and Tim Sale omnibus from DC Comics, and for my money, this is one of the best omnibuses money can buy. I believe at the time of the recording, this is still in print, and I think it's an absolute essential for all Batman fans out there. This omnibus includes things like Batman The Long Halloween, Haunted Night, Dark Victory, Catwoman, When in Rome. Frankly, it's just a near-perfect collection, and I think it's a fantastic showcasing of Tim Sale's incredible prowess. I think for me, when I think Tim Sale, I think absolute stylized. I think what's interesting is when you look at something like The Haunted Night, it even feels a little more mainstream for Tim Sale. We see more of his traditional style show up in things like Long Halloween and Dark Victory as the collection goes on. But you can see here, he has a very animated kind of style. It feels almost cartoony and interesting. It feels like, again, it leans a little bit away from realism, but it just really works. I think that the way he does character models is very almost abstract in a way. I don't know, I'm not like an art critic necessarily, so I don't even know the best ways to describe it, but I think that it's absolutely just of its own kind, and I really love that. I think that Tim Sale's artwork is absolutely striking, and it really sets itself apart from the more clean, polished look you can see in a lot of modern comic book art. I think that we have a lot more of a kind of sketchier, cartoony look to it, but it really sells the whole world of Gotham and Batman in the case of this omnibus. I know he's also incredible in the color series over at Marvel with things like Daredevil Yellow, Spider-Man Blue, Hulk Gray, all of which I've reviewed on my channel once upon a time. He passed away sadly in the recent years, and I think that we have lost a really, really incredible artist here, but I'm so happy that his work lives on, and there's so many generations that hopefully will get to enjoy his incredible products here. And last on our list of 10 great comic book artists, of course I'm going to be talking about Mike Allred, or Mike and Laura Allred. She is his wife and colorist, and should be absolutely equal build with him, just about. I do think Mike Allred doing the pencils is maybe a little bit more elevated when we think about the creators of his work, but so often we associate him with the coloring as well, and that is the work of Laura Allred. Together, they're an incredible team here, but I'm going to be talking about Mike Allred's pencils, and to do that, we're going to be taking a look at the Silver Surfer Omnibus from Dan Slott, and of course the Allreds, and I've already reviewed this, but I think that this work is absolutely fantastic. His style, as you can plainly see here, is very, very animated as well, very cartoony. He's known for those kind of heavy black outlines. There's a kind of pop art feel to the Allred artwork that I just absolutely love. I almost always love the color palettes attached as well. They're always high vibrancy, and in many ways a kind of throwback to an early era of comic book art, the kind of traditional 4-color artwork almost in a lot of the Allred work I see. And frankly, I love it. I love that they're modern comic book artists that have a kind of nostalgic throwback feel. I love that heavy line work. Like I said, it really just pops from the page and feels very pop art in general. And I think that the style is absolutely recognizable instantly. I think for fans of the Allreds, you might have been familiar with his work like Madman. I know he did the art for iZombie. He's done this. He worked on the Matt Fraction FF series. I know I was a big fan of. He's done so much. Him and his wife Laura Allred, they've done so much in the comic book industry, but they are absolute treasures. I think that this artwork is more heavily stylized, it's less mainstream and polished, it's less realistic looking, but it feels fantastic. I love the style here. I think it's absolutely unparalleled in the industry, and I think it should be talked about when we're talking about just some great comic book artists. I think it's an absolute must-see, and if you like this style, this omnibus in particular is one I could highly recommend. A really great science fiction, fantasy, romance kind of series. Really, really well done stuff. And that's going to round out our list today of 10 must-see comic book artists. Frankly, there are so many more comic book pencilers out there that I can make this video 100 different comic book artists and still have more to go. I think a couple notable mentions that probably should have been in this video as well are creators like Todd McFarlane, David Aja, Ivan Rice, Bruno Redondo, Neil Adams, and frankly so many more. Frankly, you can probably see why a video like this is difficult to do, because inevitably I leave out some iconic, great comic book artists. And frankly, that's where you come in. In the comments below, can you leave some of your favorite must-read, must-see comic book illustrators, comic book pencilers, artists of all kinds? Let me know in the comments. Who do you think should have been on this video? Who do you think should be on future videos? Who should everyone be checking out in the industry, either right now who are contemporary artists or maybe classic comic book artists that I just missed out on this list? I would love the comments section to look like this great recommendations section. Anyway, you guys are wonderful. As always, thank you for watching, and until next time, this has been the Comic Book Report. Please don't forget to leave that comment, maybe check out some of my other videos, and share this one around. Until next time, have a good one.